Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside of
Absolutely impossible season.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We're robust, we got our elbows out.
Ronar takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Yarda Watmere is your champion.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to PSGL. It is season 40. It is round number 4 around the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. I'm, of course, Alex Heron. Welcome you for my first stream this year with F2. It's been a while, but we're back. And, of course, the man to the left of me, or to the right of me, depending which way you're looking at it, it's Omi. Omi, how you doing, mate?
Doing very well. It's been a very interesting season, so looking forward to continuing it right now here at Imola as well, and great to finally be alongside you. You finally decided to come and join us.
I finally arrived. It's a Deeves entrance. I just take a little bit of time to get here, but yeah, we're here finally to do a stream together. But we of course have a very exciting championship that we're going to have a quick look at now. We'll go over to the standings. Omi, you've been here for the first 3 rounds, so why don't you take us through what's happened over the last 3 rounds, and specifically what happened in the last round?
Well, Liam Stevens, as you can see, in the championship lead, but it's currently tied on points. Now, when we left Spa, that wasn't exactly the case. We had a penalty coming for Liam Stevens that took him all the way from first down to P5, which you can currently see on screen as well. So it was a penalty due to tyre hooking as he was battling up against Sergio Sabrino for the win. He had a corner cut involved in that one as well. So it was quite a scruffy last lap where the battle went all the way from Lecombe down into Pouan corner. So it was a great last lap battle. The stewards, though, of course, got involved with it as it was, as they were colliding quite a bit throughout that last lap. So it meant that Liam Stevens dropped down to 5th, so it's put him tied on points with Leo Lund, who hasn't won a race, but as you can see, has been 2nd on 2 occasions so far this season. Angelo Di Ortenzio in 3rd position. He's been on pole twice, but he's only been able to get to the top step once so far, and it's left him on 27 points, 5 away from the lead. And the one behind that is Luca Rapassa. He's in 4th, and Sergio Sabrino in 5th. He basically bolted his way up after getting a 14th and a 10th in the opening 2 rounds. He was able to get himself to the top step, and Alex take him from 15th to 5th in the championship standings.
Yeah, and it's looked good for him so far, of course, getting that all-important win around Spa. We never want to see a race decided in the steward's room, but sometimes that is the only option. But where are we today? Well, we're at the very famous circuit. We're at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix in Imola, and we will take you through a track map of the venue right this second as we get started with today's afternoons. And here we go. There you go. It's the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. 19 turns, 3 miles long, and 1 major DRS. So a track that is tricky to overtake at. It requires a lot of skill, a lot of nerve, and a lot of bravery. And I'm going to see a lot of track limits, I expect, around here as well, Omi.
Yeah, and that plays a part in qualifying. When the drivers have limited opportunities across 18 minutes, they are battling for a point for pole position as well. And we've learned so far this season, the dirty air is very, very strong. So being able to get yourself high up on the grid can be critical, because around a circuit that is already difficult to overtake, it can be tricky if your qualifying does not go how you would have expected. So it is one of those great circuits, but you need to hook up the lap right when it comes to this qualifying session.
And of course, there's always that sprinkle of rain in the air that we can see at Imola. We've seen it many times before in PSGL, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing another fantastic Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix here. But Omi, of course, it's very early on. We're not even seeing a car come out of qualifying yet. But have you got any predictions in the air of what you want to say? Anyone you got your eyes on this this Thursday evening? There we are now. I was going to say weekend. It's not a weekend.
Yeah, not a weekend. We've got some great Thursday action with Angelo Di Ortenzio. I think he could be one to watch. As I mentioned, taken 2 poles. He will be desperate to try bounce back, and he'll definitely be in the fight. But Stevens has been great across this season. As I mentioned, if we ignore the steward finding from Spa, that would be 3 podiums to start of the season. Even if he did not come across the line first at Spa, even if it was a second, he's been very consistent. He's been in the mix, and he'll be a driver after that penalty who will want to fight back and will surely have quite a bit of momentum heading into Imola. So I think those 2 could be drivers to watch. And then Leo Lund, you have to expect him to be there. He's proven to be consistent, so he will definitely be in the mix somewhere across the higher end of the field coming today's race.
Yeah, I expect Leo Lund to be at the higher end. I've commentated on him quite a lot in PSGL over his years of going through F3 and obviously into F2. Same with Andrea Licencio. He was so good at F3 that he got moved up to F2 mid-season, I think 2 years ago now. Well, 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, I should say. But yeah, he is world-class and just getting a little bit more consistent with his drive. And he'll definitely be up there fighting for that title. And as we can see so far on round 4, he certainly is in that fight. We're still just waiting for qualifying to get started, but I'm sure we'll be getting into our first few laps very shortly. A track that can bite back if you're not careful, Omu, because the amount of corners in that first sector, especially in the middle sector as well, you've got to have that mix of a good amount of downforce, but also enough straight line speed so you don't get taken down the one major overtaking spot.
Yeah, and that major overtaking spot, really, unless you're going to try something audacious throughout the rest of the lap and risk contact, is your main and really big opportunity. So you definitely have to try and give it your all through that part of the circuit. So it is important to have enough downforce also to basically maintain the gap when it comes to making your way across the circuit. So it's very, very important for the drivers to be able to follow closely as well. So you need to have enough downforce making your way through the corner. So that's very, very vital. So as you mentioned, they do have to find the balance between those 2 things. And I'm sure lots of these drivers, they are all experts and they hopefully have put in the preparation ready for this race tonight, most of them. So they will know exactly where to go with when it comes to the setup as they try to maximize their result, which we have a calendar in total that runs over to 12 rounds. So it means that we have loads of races, but they all go by thick and fast. So you have to perform basically as much as possible in each round and be consistent, as we already mentioned a few times across this broadcast.
Yeah, consistency is key in Formula 1 and it is very key here in PSGL. But we are on track, ladies and gentlemen. The on-track action is underway with, I believe, an Aston Martin leading the way of Jan Halliday. And he'll be the first one to get a lap around the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. So here we go. He's going to get started on his first flying lap of the session. So running down the main straight here, getting that DRS open now to straight line speed. It's not as powerful as it has been in previous games. Of course, Slipstream was so powerful last season that we had to turn off the ability to use it pretty much in qualifying, but now it's back. And Jan running into those first few corners right over the track limits, but beautifully done into that first sector.
It's like I was watching a Porsche Supercup car making its way through that first Tamburello chicane with how much he mounted over the curve, and then gets close to the Haas as he navigates his way into Tosa. And then it's all about the drive uphill now as you get ready to head into Piratella. You want to place the car as much as possible to the right to be able to get the drive as you prepare to go downhill into a tricky part of the circuit, which is Acqua Minerale.
Minerani, a place that can catch out drivers, but not on this occasion. And now into the chicane, a place we've seen many drivers crash in the past. Will Jan join them? Of course he won't. Beautifully over the curves, just ignoring the gravel on the right-hand side there, before getting the power down into the final 2 90-degree left-handers. One to the left and then another one to the left. Careful with track limits on the exit of the corners. Little bit of oversteer there, but getting the DRS wide open now as he crosses the line. The time they're all chasing is a 1:13.3. That is the first time on the board. And we got a race there with a 1:13.3. And we got Poulter there with a 1:13.0 before Leo Lund does a 12.8. And that is definitely a lap to put the, put everyone on notice at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Leo Lund, who got a personal best last time when it came to PSGL qualifying with P6 in this season wants to try better, that wants to go to the top step and get the bonus point that comes with it. We are watching Luca Rapassa. It's Cameron Dowds at the moment who has joined Lunge on the front row, only for a moment though, because we've got Benzoni who returns back as well to this season, going to the top, and immediately displaced by Angelo Di Ortenzio, who has recently signed with Ferrari to become a development driver, so he's switched from the Mercedes car to the Ferrari. Sabrino's gone over to the Mercedes car, he's alongside Ranielli, so that's been a little switch that has come in, and we have to say congratulations to Di Ortenzio about that affiliation he's been able to get with Ferrari, the Italian driver. And look, Alex, he's already delivering fastest time, 1 minute 12.799.
And what a place to do it in the home of the Tifosi. It is, of course, Imola, and wouldn't be a bad place to get your first pole position in that kind of car. And it is looking very good indeed for Angelo Di Ortenzio here at Imola with a 1:12.7.899. But we know he's got the quality and the pace to be in that car and obviously be able to put it on pole position. With his teammate Riccardo Benzoni in second place, it is looking very, very good for him as we return to Seisman here in the McLaren, going through Aquamillerani there, avoiding any sort of track limits. A man who's very quick, Seisman, but we don't always see it in F2.
Yeah, he's not been able to get into the top 10, so he finds his way all the way down in 20th in the standings. A driver who had a best result of 11th, that came at the Jeddah Corniche circuit in round 2. So he wants to try get some points this season. He wants to try and get himself to be a contender. He is making his way round the final corner on this circuit, and that will be an invalidation, and immediately a trip back to the pit lane.
And that's not what Seisman wants for his confidence at all, as Nelson Alves is now the next driver who sets well, according to the map, a purple middle sector. We cannot confirm that just yet. We'll wait until he crosses the line. But the Williams driver, Nelson Alves, another driver who is always very quick, no matter what circuit we arrive at. Going through the final sector now, avoiding making the same mistake. He looked over the track limits there, but the game says he is A-OK as he crosses the line. Goes only 11th fastest, 1:13.1. But the gaps between the leaders here, I mean, what, from 15th down to 12th, down to 1st, sorry, is what, maybe a few tenths of a second, 3 tenths maybe?
Yeah, very impressive stuff, very impressive gaps. And Tony Hietala, who is in your picture at the moment in the Racing Bulls car, will be trying to contend and definitely find his way into the top 10. He'll want to try beat his teammate as well, Will Hietala, who brilliantly started the season, I have to say, on pole position. That was at the Red Bull Ring. It was a great lap time to get his way to the front. Then after that, it has been a 17th and a 7th. So he wants to be a contender and wants to get himself back up to the front. And we've mentioned how important it can be come the races to have a good starting position with how the dirty air is on this game. So he's beginning a lap, coming down their start finish straight, of course, what is for the Italian team as well. He hits Tamboro chicane, which is turn number 2 on this circuit, the first proper turn that they're focused on around this place though, and then you're getting ready for the Villeneuve chicane coming up in a few meters time.
Tony gets through that beautifully, and he is a very quick driver. Sometimes has caused himself a few problems during races, maybe causing himself some incidents. He didn't need to, but he's definitely a driver with a lot of potential and a very quick one at that. Going through the left-hander here, Tony Hietala flat to the floor in his RB and going into Aquamillerani here. Will he make it clean? He certainly does. Beautifully gone through, I must say, from Tony there. Down in 16th place, but I'm sure this lap time will fly him up the field. Of course, as you mentioned, pole position in that opening round, and has picked up a few decent results, but nothing spectacular since then. Maybe this afternoon here in Imola, this is something he can change.
Yep, let's see how the final bit of the lap goes, going right to the white line on the way of the exit of this final corner, and then it's foot to the floor to see what lap time you've managed, and he is going to be able to get ahead of his teammate. He displaces him by going into 7th position. So the two Racing Bull drivers currently together in 7th and 8th, but no one can get on terms with the Ferraris at the front. Here is Stauchilek. He's going to try and do that now as he goes through Aquaminerali, and then it's foot to the floor before you get down to the Variante Alta chicane.
Stauchilek 2 tenths up in the middle sector. He's a few thousandths up in the first sector, 2 tenths in the middle sector. If he can nail this final sector here, the Alpine driver, he can get himself maybe onto that provisional pole position, but there's still 9 minutes left of this qualifying session. Laps going thick and fast, and here comes statue, and Jan Halliday has gone fourth fastest there. Goes across the line as the Alpine driver goes third fastest, 1:12.833. Not enough to take any of the Ferraris out of their positions, but right now he's in a very good spot. Sergio Sobrino goes sixth fastest as well. Of course, the Veloce Academy driver up in sixth place.
And our eyes now go to P7 man at the moment, Cameron Dowd, who, even though he returned back to PC last time, he found him last season. He found himself getting himself into the championship fight, even though he'd only done half the rounds. So that shows the talent that he has. On this lap, though, it is going to be backing off as he was all over the road, trying to fight away with the car. We've got also a lap coming in for Murphy, and it's a lap at the front of the field for Leo Lund to go fastest of all into the 1:12.6s, and that has beaten the F3 pole time that we saw about an hour ago. So Leo Lund going quicker, and now is the driver to beat in this session.
And both Ferraris have come out of the pit lane as well to get their next flying lap on the ball. But right now we're watching Quintoon, who's down in 17th place. Another Veloce Academy driver has only done a 1:40.5. That is not a representative lap time for the Williams man. He'll definitely be getting a better lap time on the board and get himself up into that section of battle. Probably wants to be his teammate Nelson Alves, who is currently in 15th place, but I'm sure Nelson has got a better lap time on the board. Riccardo Benzoni has just started his next flying lap, but we'll keep an eye on Quintoon as he comes around the final sector. Of course, he'll be jumping up the grid. Luca Rapace, I believe, jumps up to 5th place there. Up into the top 5. Here comes Quintoon, crosses the line and stays, goes 16th fastest, I should say, about 10th off of his teammate. I'm sure there's a better lap time in him for there. But Riccardo Benzoni has just gone through the first sector there. So let's go check on how his qualifying lap is going. As he's running through the first sector. He's 24 thousandths up, Omi, in the first sector.
Going quicker, but then we'll need to try and continue that when it comes to our second and third sector that remains on the lap. Takes the wide line through Acco Minerali, trying to get a good exit, and then by the time you get down to the Variante Alta chicane, you know how much time you need to pick up in this final sector. He's up by over a tenth of a second, but it's now all about trying to see whether you can find the time. We've had a Haas driver of Lari Chulki go into second place, so we've got the Ferraris demoted to P3 and P4 at the moment. Can Benzoni try change that? Can he get himself back into the position that he was? He'll want to go for the point for pole position. Benzoni across the line, improves to the front row. It's behind Leo Lund at the moment.
By only 5 milliseconds between Benzoni and Leo Lund, you can see these drivers performing at their highest level, with Andrew Licencio also on a qualifying lap. So let's go check in on him and see how his teammate, Riccardo Benzoni's teammate, is doing. And he's invalidated his lap, and that is where we've seen Angelo in before, where yes, he is very, very quick, but he does have a little bit of mistake in him. And it's so easy around the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix to invalidate a lap, cutting a corner a little bit too much. You've seen how close these drivers have been on the edge here, Omi, and I'm surprised we haven't seen more of it.
Yeah, the amount of lap times that we got after the first run, I think were quite impressive, considering how usually it can be the case that we have loads of invalidations as the drivers try and find the limit around this circuit as they try and maximize the time. And with how competitive this field is, with how good this grid is, you are going to need every single thousand that you can get around this circuit. And well, it's shown at the front between our top two only being separated by 5 thousandths. Right, we brought you Lukumski's lap, the ending of it earlier on. That's a bit more like it. That is 6th position for him, a 1:12.849 for the McLaren driver. So Lukumski a little bit more better for him, as he'll try and now work with that and try and improve come our final run in the final seconds of this session.
Yeah, that's the lap time I thought we'd see from the McLaren driver. I know he's got a good lap time in him, he just needs to warm himself up. And here's another man who's always got a good lap time in him, going through the Villeneuve chicane here. It's Jan Halliday, who is looking for a good first sector, 17 thousandths up in the first sector, and tiny improvement. If you were in a league like myself would be racing, I can tell you that would be a very good improvement. But in a league like this, you know, it's only small margins between the top runners, and of course down into, well, basically everyone in P11 is only at 1:12 already. Little bit of a rear end wobble there from Jan Halliday. That's going to cost him coming out of the corner, and it has. He's not even a 10th up in the middle sector here, and he's invalidated as well to boot, as Angelo D'Ascencio with a lap out of nowhere there, a 1:12.649, goes faster than Leo Lund. He stayed out, did a second lap time on that same set of tyres. Very, very impressive from the Ferrari driver there.
Yeah, that is impressive stuff. We mentioned could the Ferrari strike back, and they absolutely have done so. Angelo Di Ortenzio, we mentioned about with his Ferrari affiliation that he's got now, can he start it off in style by taking a pole position and taking what would be 3 poles in a row, which when we mention how competitive this is, when we mention how close this grid is, it's remarkable that in the opening 4 rounds he's been able to get 3 poles and they've all come in a row as well. But still, we've got a long way to go in this session. Still, a lot to try and loads of drivers to try and disrupt this order. Here is one of them, the Brazilian driver, Gabriel Quintino. Another one of those drivers, which you were mentioning it with Di Ortenzio earlier on, but Gabriel Quintino, a driver who did so well in F3 that he got himself promoted mid-season to F2.
Yeah, it's that he's on that limit of where he's really, really good for F3, and he's on that limit of being very good for F2, but there's so many good drivers in here. I mean, there's 20 drivers who you can consider just under the guys that we race in PSC F1, of course, who raced last night as well. These guys, I think some of them, if you give them a chance, they could run for their money for sure, as Quintu is going for what will be his last lap of the session, just going through that first sector. It doesn't take as much curb on the inside there. It's interesting to see how certain drivers take different lines. Angelo Di Ortenzio has only just entered the pit lane, so he will be very much on the limit to get another lap time in, but I reckon he probably can, as we see Quintu up by about a tenth in the first sector.
Yeah, so for Di Ortenzio, if he can get back out there, then it's going to be most likely a last lap effort for him as we continue following Gabriel Quintino, one of the reserve drivers coming into this season as well, as he makes his way down into Acque Minerali, and then we're going to get an idea of what this lap time is looking like. He's kept it within the white lines as it stands so far, 2 minutes and 22 seconds to go at the moment. That's an improvement by 0.2 of a second, but when you are finding yourself in 18th position, 0.2 is needed, and you even need to go beyond that if you are going to try and contend. So let's see how this lap is going to end for him.
He needs to find a good chunk of time in the final 2 corners, which is never the easiest. There's a little bit of a rear end wobble there as well. Soon to the line for qualifying, and he goes 11 fastest. A good improvement from the Williams driver, just misses out on the top 10 by a few thousandths of a second, but everyone is out on another lap. Angelo Di Ortenzio is only just coming down the pit lane now to start his lap, as Leo Lund, the man in second place, is going for what will be his last lap of qualifying. Wants that extra point. Of course, there is nothing separating the leaders. They are on the same points going into this round. Of course, round 4, we've still got many rounds to go, but Leo Lund looking beautiful through that first sector and blasting past the man who's in pole position at the moment, Angelo Di Ortenzio. But let's see what Leo Lund's first lap time is going to be. Just going through the Villeneuve chicane, a little bit of understeer. He's only 27 thousandths down in the first sector. Not an improvement there from the Red Bull driver.
That's not what he needs if he wants to try and contend for pole position. Let's see how Piratella goes and the remainder of this lap. He needs to push on hard. He is going right up to the gravel, trying to get every single thousandth of a second he can. This is Acque Minerali, a fast part of the circuit, and it's all out of shape for Leo Lund, and that is going to be a lap abandoned for the Red Bull driver.
It certainly is, and it looks like Riccardo Benzoni is also backed out of his qualifying lap here to work together with his Ferrari teammate as they both go off the road. Of course, this is not a Constructors' Championship here, but of course, them both working with Ferrari, I imagine they may consider getting themselves a little bit of a slipstream there, maybe down the main straight. But yeah, Leo Lund, that is tragic from him. He may go again. If he's backed off, got himself a little bit of ERS, he may be able to try again if he's got enough fuel in the car. But we're keeping an eye on the 2 Ferrari drivers with probably not very much left in the session here, as here comes Riccardo Benzoni very slowly through the final sector. And here we go, 10 seconds left on the clock as Pito goes 4th fastest here. Angelo Di Ortenzio is going for it for his final lap qualifying alongside Riccardo Benzoni, who makes it to the line just before it ends. And this is now or never for the 2 Ferrari drivers.
You mentioned how they will go late and how they will try and extract everything around this circuit. That is exactly the goal ahead of the Ferraris right now at the moment. What a performance from Joe Murphy as well in his first ever season of PSGL. Right now staring at P5 after a retirement 2 weeks ago before our break week. Angelo Di Ortenzio though in this battle for pole position as we have Ranieri going to P2. What a lap time from him as well. But the Ferraris, Di Ortenzio is just up. Can he continue it as he tries to maintain this advantage and tries to keep this pole position?
He needs to keep it. Can he keep it through Aquamillarani? We saw Leo Lund have a problem through here, but no problems for Angelo D'Asensio, who's still on provisional pole. He's a few thousandths up in that middle sector. Riccardo Benzoni is just behind him as well on the track. We'll keep an eye on his lap time as well, see how he's improving. As here comes Angelo D'Asensio through the final sector now. He's already on provisional pole. Can he increase his advantage on pole position and secure a third pole in a row here in PCF2? D'Asensio to the line. It will be provisional pole. Where is Riccardo Benzoni though? Can he improve? No, he's invalidated. It wouldn't have mattered anyway. So Angelo D'Asensio is on pole position because I don't think there's anyone behind him that can stop him.
Doesn't look like to be the case, so it looks like 3 poles in a row, and what a way to start off. Is Ferrari affiliation as a development driver. He has moved from his Mercedes team in this PC F2 tier over to Ferrari, and he's going to start it in Ferrari's home race at the front of the field. And when margins are so close, when you've been able to get the best time out of any other driver across the opening, across the last 3 rounds, then fair play. What a brilliant lap time for D'Asensio, but also credit to Ranieri, who will be starting alongside him on the front row. That's a great performance from the Italian driver as well, who now has a new personal best after getting 5th last time. It is now going to be 2nd place. It looks like his qualifying so far this season have been getting better and better, but anyone can try. Currently it looks like D'Asensio though, by nearly 0.2 of a second today, has been once again the driver to beat.
Yeah, 2 Italians on the front row, only a 10th separating them, with Leo Lund and Riccardo Benzoni in the top 4. Peter, Joe Murphy, Larry Tukey, Luca Passa, Liam Stevens and Seisman round out your top 10 with Conrad Bohm, Nelson Alves, Benz, Jan, Sergio Sabrino, Quintone, Tony Hightower, Cameron Downs, Race and Gabor round out your top 20. Only 5/10 separate 19th to 1st, which is a ridiculous gap indeed. And we'll be getting ready to get started for what will be an exciting Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Of course, something we mentioned, of course, Dirty Air is incredibly important in this year's game. But something else that's important is the tyre wear that these tyres go through. You know, it has become a game where a 2-stop is almost a viable strategy because of how much the tyres wear on these drivers. But of course, these are professional drivers. They may be better at saving tyres than I personally am. But I could very much see, you know, a chance of possibly, well, scrap anything I've just said, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's raining here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix.
Absolutely extraordinary. The rain's come down, and any of the try strategy talk, well, it's a complete different equation now with the rain coming down. And we were mentioning the Imola weather earlier on of how it can just strike a little bit, and it has done so today. So it's a complete different goal now for these drivers. It is a race getting even more trickier.
Yeah, and a track that we've mentioned that is very tricky to overtake has just become harder with the wet conditions. Of course, no DRS during wet running here at Imola, but it looks like to me only light rain intermediate tyres will be the tyre of choice. Of course, you'll never see the full wets here in PSGL. No one else wants to use them, but maybe we'll see the rain getting lighter, or maybe we'll see dry conditions later on. We have no clue here up in the commentary box what the weather is going to be doing. It's going to be a surprise for you at home as well. If you are currently enjoying your PSGL action, make sure to follow us on all our social media, from X to TikTok to, of course, joining the Discord and getting involved in the conversation. But it's getting ready for lights out here. The lights are on. And they're off as we get going racing here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. It's a good start from our pole sitter, Angelo D'Asensio, but Leo Lund has got a good start as well, and he's racing into the first corner, and it's been not a great start from our Mercedes front row, as it's gone terribly as they race into the first corner. He's got gravel, there's people off into the background as well, people off into the front ground. It is all chaos here at Imola, and we've got cars turn round. It's a massive collision at the open start of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, and there's many cars without a front wing and many facing in the wrong direction.
one of the more messier starts. We were praising the drivers 2 weeks ago for keeping it clean across so many times this season, but that completely goes out of the equation. Cars absolutely everywhere, as there is the British driver further back, Joe Murphy, just getting himself back on the road. That was absolutely ludicrous stuff. We're going to have front wings missing. We're still lucky to even have everyone running in this race, but that was absolutely ridiculous stuff. Dio Tenzio at the front, Leo Lund in second place, Benzoni in third, and it was Ranieri, not the getaway he wanted. He's dropped down from second to P4.
Yeah, Ranieri not working well in these conditions so far. Trying to get those tyres warmed up is very important to get them nice and toasty before we get running here. Of course, the rain is still falling here at Imola, but Leo Lund has found himself in second place, a place that he loves more than anything else. Doesn't tend to win the races here this season, but he loves to finish in second. But now he's facing down the man who's third in the championship, Angelo D'Asensio, as he chases him down as he sets the fastest lap, of course, but it's the opening lap. And here we go, running down the main straight. You can see the wings are slightly different between our two front runners here at the moment. One is running a little bit higher, as one is running a little bit lower. But I wonder, setup-wise, what people are running, because they obviously know more than we do here, Omi. Is there a chance that this rain clears up?
That'll be the interesting question. What is the weather going to do? Into the pit lane comes Stauchilek and Sabrino and Murphy. We've got Halliday moving up to 11th position. He just got past the driver in your picture, Ray's Imtiaz, who drops down to 12th. An F3 champion off the past as well. Cameron Dowds has just got past Tony Hietala. So those are a couple of moves that have taken place at the moment as well. But that was absolutely ludicrous stuff as we started that contest. But now the drivers will put their eyes forward. If you were at the front of the field, you were able to avoid all of that mess. And now you look to see what you can do in these wet weather conditions in a race where overtaking will be tricky if it continues. But once again, who knows? It could dry up come the final stages of this one.
Yeah, we're only 2 laps into this Grand Prix. It's a 32-lap Grand Prix, so 30 laps to go here. Of course, no DRS. We're going to see a lot of trains beginning to form here. Oh, it's very late on the brakes. Goes the Mercedes into the back of Riccardo Benzoni, but nothing doing there. Oh, that was definitely late. Maybe a little bit of ambition over adhesion there, as Angelo D'Asensio gets a 1:26.6, but he's being chased down by Leo Lund, who's only 3/10 behind him now, as it's closing the gap to the front, but not closing enough. As here comes the RB driver of Luca Rapazza, trying to make that move, as Cameron Downs is the man who sets the fastest lap towards the further end of the grid. But the reason is he's got 2-second gap in front of him. He's got a nice amount of clean air, as the Mercedes driver is having to go defensive here into the Villeneuve chicane. It'll be brave to make a move there. Does it look like to me that he's being held up by Riccardo Benzoni here?
Looks like slightly. Could be the case as well. Or Benzoni not being able to run as closer to the top two. It's still close. It's still 7/10, but by PSGL standards, that is the distance that we've got. It means that Ranieri's getting close, and he's stuck behind. It's inviting Rapazza into the mix, so it's getting close between 3rd, 4th and 5th at the moment. We're on board with P2 driver in the race and also in the championship. He wants to avenge that by the end of today. He wants to get into the championship lead, and could he do so with his first victory of the season? Right now he's learning the lines, learning the way that Angelo D'Asensio is navigating his way through this circuit, and that is exactly the case as well for the drivers in the mid-pack. They're trying to see where their rivals are strong, where their rivals are weak, and then go on the attack as well, because that's important info come later on in this race where they do have to try and make the vital overtakes.
Of course, the track is only going to get better in these wet conditions. Of course, if the rain stays at its steady pace at the moment, then the track is only going to improve as more cars go around. It's basically like having 20 very expensive vacuum cleaners go round a Grand Prix circuit. But something that we should mention, of course, as Tony Tyler goes into the pits there, is that Liam Stevens, of course, championship leader, down in 6th place at the moment, a second off of Luca Rapazza. And not finding the pace that he wants in these intermediate conditions, where that could be a number of things. That could be maybe he doesn't like the wet, but I wouldn't say that for Liam Stevens. Is there a setup difference here between maybe the guys in front and Liam Stevens down in 6th place?
Definitely could be the case. So Liam Stevens will be hoping that we do see changes to the conditions, if that is the case at the moment as well. Stavchulek has set the fastest lap of the race as he's very close to overtaking Sergio Sabrino. We've had Tony Itala come into the pit lane. Stavchulek has now overtaken Sabrino, so that would have come earlier on in the lap. We are taking a look though at our race leader, still about 5 tenths ahead, so it is still looking close between these two contenders at the moment. We have Conrad Bohm, who's also lost the 1 second to Larry Chulki ahead, so Conrad Bohm coming under threat from Jan Halliday, our reigning champion, of course, here in PCF2, here to maintain his crown by the end of this season, but still a long way to go, and he definitely needs to be getting into those points-paying positions.
Yeah, certainly does. Down in 11th place right now. He wants to get himself at least a point this afternoon. And we're already on lap 5 here. It's flown by already at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And here comes Jan Halliday. And it's going to be a simple 1-2 punch there as he gets past Conrad Bohm into the top 10. Laying himself a nice little advantage on the McLaren driver behind. As we see the Mercedes still under pressure here from the RB of Luca Rapassa behind him, pressurising Riccardo Benzoni in front. But he's looking a little bit like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place at the moment.
Yeah, it's one of those positions where you're getting through this early phase of the race, but it's important to try and be patient as well. We have seen a few times when drivers can get impatient, themselves ending up with contact and also find themselves having to repair a front wing, or even worse at times as well. Ranieri found that out in Jeddah when he had contact with Cameron Dowds. That was at the 27th and final turn of the circuit as well, where he just got the braking, he got the braking unfortunately not right on that occasion, and contact was made then. Right now he's currently looking at a podium spot which belongs to Benzoni, and then you have Leo Lund and Angelo Di Ortenzio. Riccardo Benzoni, of course, has missed 2 rounds this season, so kind of needs to get on with it as well and try and make up for some of those points that have been lost in those 2 races, as we now take a look at Gabriel Quintino trying to attack Cameron Dowds. And let's see whether the move will come for the Williams driver, trying to tuck up behind, and he's going to try and overtake Dowds, but he might just be a little bit too far back when we arrive and hit the brakes for Tamburello chicane.
Yeah, Donny making any sort of silly overtake into that first corner. We've already seen one big collision here this afternoon, and in the wet conditions it is more dangerous to make that sort of lunge down the inside into the first corner. As Conrad Bohm picks up a 3-second time penalty, I'm sure not the last one we're going to see here around Imola. It is a track that can catch you out at a moment's notice, and in the wet conditions it can catch you out even quicker. But Angelo Asensio is loving life at the front of the grid right now. Not going to have that dirty air problem that the cars behind him will have. He's just allowed to protect his tyres, get themselves a nice little running here, but doesn't want to rest on his laurels. As Leo Lund looked for a little bit of a lunge down the inside into the chicane, a place you don't normally see an overtake. And I'm sure Leo wasn't thinking of one, but just wants to put Angelo under a little bit of pressure and remind him, I'm still in your background, mate. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't be too relaxed. I'm still here. I'm still right on the back as well, and he's definitely going to be right on the back down this straight as well. It's only 0.2 of a second between our race leader Angelo Di Ortenzio and Leo Lund directly in behind at the moment. He will not be able to get by. Come down this straight into the pit lane we go with Imtiaz as Jan Halliday makes his way up to 9th position, so he's been able to get past Larry Chulki in the Haas. So that's a switch that has come into play. But the top 5 continuing on with how this race has been running. Leo Lund just getting close, but once again just sticking in behind, and Di Ortenzio doing well at the moment to control things in this contest.
I think the problem with Leo Lund there is, looking down that main straight, he was on 0% battery before they'd even hit the braking point of that corner, and that is unlike Leo to be using so much battery. And I wonder if that's because he set his car up for, a wet Grand Prix, and maybe not having the same straight line speed that the man Angelo has in front. And of course, it looks like Riccardo Benzoni is closing in as well in 3rd place, looking to make it a Ferrari 1-2 here at the moment. So Leo Lund was the man who was becoming the attacker, will now have to become the defender here, as it's a Ferrari that wants his 2nd place, and give Angelo Asensio a little bit of a rear gunner here. But he's got to be careful as well, because he's got a man pressurising him from behind.
He has indeed. So it is some great close following at the moment between these drivers, where if there is any errors, if there is any mistakes, then you're going to be punished for it immediately. Now, the gap is nearly getting to 1 second between first and second place. Setting the fastest lap is Gabo Kashontos as well. So he's just had a 1 minute 24 come in as the circuit hopefully will be improving and going even quicker and quicker, especially if the rain is to stop. Retiring in the pit lane there is going to be Ben Sabaconi, so a bit of a disappointment for him as well, so he'll not be unfortunately getting any points from this event. He was a driver who managed to get 9th place in our season opening round in Australia, but unfortunately cannot get anywhere near that. He's our opening retirement on lap number 8.
Yeah, he was one of the Alpines involved in that battle at the start, and it's Tony Hightower who also retires from the Grand Prix there, jumping into the pit lane and calls it, well, retiring from the Grand Prix. It's been not a good start from the guys caught up in that incident at the opening point of the race, and I can't blame the drivers for seeing an end to their Grand Prix so early on. We tend to prefer drivers to stay out as long as they can, but when you're caught up in an incident like that, so far back from the grid, it's so difficult to make up positions.
Really is, and the drivers will know about that, and sometimes it can just be a case of putting your full attention and focus on the next round of this season, which we will be journeying our way over to another challenge of Silverstone as well, which will be an interesting round come round 5 in a week's time, as we take a look at the position gains as well across this race. Nelson Alves has moved up for you, the driver who we were on board with, Jan Halliday R5, and Gabo Kashontos is the one who has gained quite a lot as well at the moment. As you can see, the driver running in 12th place at the moment, so he's doing very well. 1.2 seconds now as Angelo Giotenti begins to pull away, so Leo Lund not having the battery starting to affect him a little bit, and it means that Giotenti can just try control this and try and get away at the front of the field, but you can see Leo Lund's doing the exact same, so some gaps starting to form between our top three as they also try to preserve those tyres at the moment.
And race there, setting the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. So the track is definitely improving, but every time I see, an onboard and an offboard, I think, oh, maybe the rain's slowing down here. But then in an onboard, it seems like it's speeding up. I'm not sure what the forecast is going to say, but I don't see any blue skies in our recent future at the moment. It's very much looking like a cloudy, very cloudy British day, I must say, here in Italy, which is not what we always want to see when you come. But it does make for an exciting Grand Prix. And I wonder how the tyres are doing in this sort of condition, because, of course, they're going to be struggling in the dirty air. And I wonder when we're going to see those first couple of pit stops for, I imagine, what will be another set of intermediate tyres.
Yeah, definitely could be the case, another set of inters. As it looks like the weather doesn't look to be going away for the moment, so that could definitely be the case come our pit stop phase of this contest. But Ferrari leading at Imola, exactly the sight that the Tifosi would want to see as well at the moment. First and third, and then Leo Lund, we've mentioned how he's been the consistent driver across this season, on his way to another consistent result, doing his best Leonardo Fornaroli impression, but I think Leo Lund likes to do that across multiple seasons as well, but it's going to be about trying to keep that together all the way till the end of the season. Fastest lap once again goes to Reis Imtiaz, the driver now in 15th, who has come in and made that pit stop for the fresh intermediate compound of tyres. He's got around 30-second gap to the driver in front of Gabriel Quintino, so he's able to push on and kind of do his race at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm just hearing that we possibly have got tyres at a very high temperature here, and it could be causing problems to a lot of the drivers, especially with, I imagine, a rear limited circuit indeed. And we're going to have a lot of tyre wear coming up, and that is going to be a massive problem for a lot of our drivers. And usually when a tyre tends to overheat, it's usually meaning that the track is not based for this tyre, but I don't know if I'd be trying a set of dries in this sort of weather.
Yeah, may not be the best idea as well to head out onto this current racetrack, which you are watching. Some cars following quite closely at the moment of this train being led by Conrad Bohm. Then comes Gabo Kashontos, he's in the hash, trying to just make his rival aware that he is directly in behind and is waiting to capitalise as well. And then you've got Cameron Dowd and Quintino, as we mentioned, at the tail end of this battle at the moment. But Conrad Bohm, who, as you can see, part of McLaren, has been getting quite the season together at times, but unfortunately when it has come to the races, it has been a DNF to start the season. Talking about DNFs, out of the race we go with Stouchelek in the pit lane as well, so not what Alpine wanted, and also Sergio Sabrino, who is our most recent race winner, but unfortunately will not be adding to that today, so that's now 4 retirements in total from this Grand Prix.
And 4 of them caught up in that opening incident with, I believe, an Alpine spinning around, and of course both Alpines out. Of course, it's not a team championship, but a double disaster for the Alpine outfit here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. But at the front of the grid, it remains the same, with Leo Lund chasing down Descencio, with Riccardo Benzoni up in 3rd place. And of course, with the Italian connection, we could have an all-Italian podium here, with the 1, 2, 3 all being Italian. I can't think of a time that's happened so far, so that would be a very interesting result if that is the case. But of course, we are a long way from podium celebrations. We're only on lap 12 of 32. Pit stops are still happening. Conrad Bohm is in the pit as well. But it's Liam Stevens, 2.8 seconds off the top 5. That is a little bit surprising here.
Yeah, not the heights we've seen him reach across this season, but definitely could be setup related at the moment with the way he's gone for it, but he's keeping track position critically over Lukumski, over Alves. Alves beginning to get quite impatient as well behind Lukumski, so that's getting an interesting battle, which is right now separated by 3 tenths, but has been getting to 2 tenths like it is right now as well. So you've got some close racing and close battles that could unfold over the next few laps when we tick over and begin lap number 13, but right now the conditions, the drivers having to tackle them as well, so you're having to be aware at all times of the circuit. It's an old school circuit. It is usually the case anyway, but Ranieri getting very close, so we could be about to see a move for the final spot on the podium, with Benzoni looking in his mirrors, Ranieri trying to go on the, trying to go for the overtake down this straight in a few moments time, so let's see whether he will be able to do it. Will the Italian driver, as he comes across the line, might be a little bit too far back, of course. Battery manager very critical at this phase of the race, as we also see Lukumski now become another retirement.
Another retirement, 10-second time penalty for speeding in the pit lane, and retires from this Grand Prix. Yeah, but it just can't close in just enough. This is where a bit of DRS would be really helpful for the drivers in that spot. But of course, with these wet conditions, they're not going to enable the drag reduction system. It's just too dangerous to give these cars that already have a lot of power even more down the back straight. And as you mentioned, Omi, an old school circuit, where a track where we've seen incidents in the past, and we don't want to see those sort of again. It's just too dangerous at the moment to open that DRS wing. But he's closing in so much, and I wonder how his engine is dealing with the heat of that dirty air. It can really overtake the engine and cost you good amount of straight line speed.
Yeah, he is really following at a close distance at the moment. He's absolutely wrestling away with the car through very anti-Elton. There's all action behind the wheel for Ranieri as he tries to attack Benzoni, and Ranieri getting closer, just waiting as we arrive down into this penultimate corner, and then we arrive down in the final corner, and then it's all about seeing whether you can get anything down the straight, but it's about the drive and the battery that you've got to give down the straight if you try and go on the attack. But he's been following closely, and it doesn't look like there will be a move coming down this straight, so it might need to be brilliant to the corners and then trying to see whether there can be an audacious move at some point on the circuit, but it has to be measured, because you are looking right now at a good result for Ranieri, so you don't want to throw that away. So you have to be cautious with anything that you do try at a different part of this circuit.
Yeah, Ranieri will need to be careful and cautious here. Of course, the Italian driver who started on the front row alongside Angelo, but fell down to P4 at the start of the race, did not get the best launch off the line, but Ranieri is still looking very nice in P4, just behind the Ferrari, who's dropped about 2.6 seconds off the back of our race leaders. And I mean, at some parts of this track, the rain looks like it's slowing down, and then others, it looks like intensifying. It's a very strange set of conditions here at Imola, and our drivers are adapting to it with every single lap that passes us by. We're on lap 14 of 32. The intermediate tyres, I imagine, are beginning to struggle here in these sort of conditions, because of course the more tread you take off an intermediate tyre, the more they become like a slick tyre, and you don't want to be on slick tyres around a circuit as wet as this at the moment.
Yeah, it is going to be now struggle starting to come the driver's way at the moment in this phase of the race, so a lot to manage, a lot to try deal with and contend with for these drivers as Nelson Alves comes into the pit lane. Does the Williams driver. Rapassa was getting very close, under braking there as well with Ranieri, but has to just tuck in behind. It's all about ebbing and flowing at the moment along with your but that's a good exit from Ranieri, but when you get down to the Villeneuve chicane, the gap will be maintained at 3/10 and 4/10. So it's right now a fluctuating gap between the three drivers in 3rd, 4th and 5th, as they all have their fair share of struggles, which we have just been talking to you about. Also coming into the pit lane there was Gaba Kushontos, the driver who is right now in 13th position in your order. So those two have elected to come in and get those set of intermediates, as we were mentioning.
Yeah, and Ranieri there, just closing in once again in the corners. You can see he's got a lot more grip in the corners, but coming out of exits, he doesn't have the same power that Riccardo Benzoni does. But you can see Benzoni is struggling on those tyres. He's 14 laps he's done on these intermediates. Of course, people have pitted have gone to brand new, fresh sets of intermediate tyres, which hopefully, for their sake, will bring them to the end of this Grand Prix if the weather does not change again. But Benzoni, 3/10 down in the middle in the first sector. He was even further down in the middle sector. So he's beginning to struggle here at Imola on these tyres. As we see Ranieri come into the pit with Luca Rapassa. Now this is an interesting pit stop here, because these are some of the front runners making that decision to go on fresh intermediate tyres here on lap 16. The undercut is going to be underway, and Benzoni will have to respond.
Yeah, the response will need to come from Riccardo Benzoni as we make our way in the pit lane as well, as Rapassa is going to find himself with just Ranieri rejoining. The pair of them will make their way out onto the circuit, and they will try to see whether they can jump Benzoni. So this outlap is going to be critical. You also at the same time had Tulki and Cameron Dowd coming into the pit lane as well. So now this is where the race gets interesting. This is where the vital moment happens, as we have reached half race distance. So this is where now it is going to be vital, and this race could completely transform in terms of this order. With how tricky it is to overtake, these can be the critical laps that decide our winner by the end of today. They make their way through, and Dowd's just having a look at the moment for a little attack to see whether he can get past Ray's empty, as it is a 1/10 of a second. As we get ready to head into Piratella with some wheel to wheel, and Dowd gets up the inside and takes the position.
I mean, that is certainly a bold position to make the move. Leo Lund is in the pits now. The Ferraris have a decision to make with Riccardo Benzoni coming into the pits. I was just about to mention that Rapassa and Ranieri only just got in front of Nelson Alves there in 8th position. So they were definitely starting to struggle. And Benzoni is going to be a very close contender to the drivers in 6th and 7th as they come down the pit lane. It is a long old pit lane here at Imola, and I think it's going to be close. I think Leo Lund is going to get in front of this running pack. For Riccardo Benzoni, on the other hand, I am not too sure where this is going to come out, and he's going to come out behind them. He's going to come out quite considerably behind them, in front of Nelson Alves, but he's behind Ranieri, and he's behind Luca Rapassa. That extra lap for Riccardo Benzoni has cost him, and will it do the same for Angelo D'Asensio?
Yeah, absolutely, and Ranieri will be relieved that he does not have to stare at the back of that rear wing of that Ferrari for any longer. But now the question mark turns to the other Ferrari, continuing on, of Angelo D'Ortenzio. Could he be putting himself under threat, possibly to the Red Bull of Leo Lund, as he makes his way towards the end of this lap? We've already seen one Ferrari head backwards. Could it be the case for another one, as D'Ortenzio makes his way down to the final few corners and will surely need to be coming into the pit lane?
Yeah, you have to surely respond here. As you see, Jan Halliday's made up 12 positions, but he has yet pit. Ooh, bit of a slow entry there into the pits for Angelo. He's struggling to slow that car down. And we are watching Leo Lund here going through what will be the final sector. As we mentioned, it is a long old pit lane here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And right now, we could be watching the race lead be decided, as here comes Angelo. He served his pit stop. He's got his new intermediate tyres on, but he's trundling down the pit lane. It is a slow crawl to the pit exit, and Leo Lund is launching his way down the main straight. And surely for Leo Lund, he's got it. He's got it done, and he certainly has got it done. He's in front of Angelo D'Asensio and leads the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix.
Incredible That is remarkable stuff. Leo Lund now the driver to be to the front of the field. He's got track position as he tries to chase his maiden win this season. And Angelo Diotenzio is going to be there as he tries to deny him. Now this is going to be an interesting battle. Can Diotenzio try fight back? It's going to be a tricky move to make, but that is a critical moment. We mentioned how important these pit stop phases were with these different drivers going and pitting different laps, and it has played out in the favour of Leo Lund, and both Ferraris have found themselves moving backwards. And talking about going backwards, that was nearly the case even further for Benzoni as Alves got so close and is still following so closely.
Nelson Alves is pressurising the back of Riccardo Benzoni, who's been struggling for a few laps now before he put on his old set of tyres and changed to his new set. And Nelson Alves trying to go around the outside of the chicane. That is a bold move indeed from the Williams driver. Didn't make it stick on this occasion, but here comes Alves. He's got the straight line speed and he's got the move done. He's past Riccardo Benzoni. He's wheel to wheel with him. Can he go around the outside of the final sector? Benzoni still sticks a wheel up the inside. It's close, it's tight, but it's not close enough. As he loses another position, he's down to 6th place. What is going on with Riccardo Benzoni?
Absolute disaster for Benzoni back in PSGL PCF2 after missing 2 rounds, and it is not the return that he would have wanted. It looked so promising in qualifying. It looked like that he could be a contender also in the early stages, but it has all fallen away through the pit stop phase. For him, his teammate is still a contender, but that is not the phase that Ferrari would have wanted at all during the pit stop cycle. Kashontos has moved up and he's got into 12th place. He's got ahead of Reyes Imtiaz and the kick saber directly in behind that you can see. So it has been a move that has come in there. But wow, it is Benzoni now struggling even further. Alves able to move himself forward, and we're taking a look at Rapassa right now as he looks to try and attack Ranieri as well as they battle over 3rd and 4th position. Fastest lap goes to Joe Murphy.
Joe Murphy down in 15th place, 37 seconds off the rest of the pack. But yeah, double disaster for Ferrari at the moment. One down in 6th place, one in 2nd place. They were at one point in this Grand Prix 1st and 3rd, and they're now 2nd and 6th. And you can see Angelo is struggling to keep up with Leo Lund here as the rain continues to fall here at Imola. And for the Tifosi, it's going to happen again here at Imola, isn't it? They're not going to be able to get a victory at the moment as it stands, but there's still 12 laps to go here at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. But Riccardo Benzoni here only has dropped 1.3 seconds to Nelson Alves and may drop another position in the meantime. But Liam Stevens is making the moves first. He's up into P7, and Riccardo Benzoni, of all people, heroes, the man who is leading the World Championship as it stands, in 7th place.
Yeah, well, how has this one changed? Benzoni and Stevens, we thought it was Stevens who found himself in quite the trouble across this race so far in the first half, but it now looks like he could be the driver with momentum. He could be the driver to try and make his way through. Further back, we've seen Jan Halliday also get through on Conrad Bohm, who is going to be fading and dropping down positions. There is Larry Tulki just having a look, just having a dart for the moment and seeing whether he can get on with it. Akram Inarali would be a brave spot, trying to see whether he can dart to the outside, to the inside, but there's no way through, just following at the moment, and then the road will finally open up and it will still be brave down to Variante Alta.
Yeah, it's difficult to make a move into the Variante Alta at all. I don't think I've ever seen anyone make a sort of competitive overtake into that corner without them both ending across the grass. But luckily for both drivers, they're still going in a straight line. For Leo Lund, he's going in a very good straight line, leading the Grand Prix with a 2nd advantage. And something else we should mention is Ranieri, who's in 3rd place here, was about 1.5 seconds off the race lead. He's now only 1.2 off the race lead and only losing time down this back straight. He has gained a lot of time, a lot of momentum, and he's closing in on the leaders.
Absolutely, he is pushing on. He's really pushing on at the moment, is Ranieri, so it is getting closer and closer between our top 4 at the moment. Alves is also looking to try and get himself into the mix, so our top 5 could be very close together come the final stages as the rain continues to fall around this Imola circuit.
It's interesting how drivers and cars have adapted to the new set of intermediate tyres they're running, but yeah, lap times are being struggling for a lot of our leaders here, as Angelo has dropped back massively, and I wonder, is there overheating problems? Is the tyres causing problems? I'm seeing a lot of drivers going over towards more of a wet patch on this racetrack. The rain is only falling enough to really sort of make the circuit a bit damp. It's not making it a circuit which the intermediate tyres are really liking here. And the dirty air is massively affecting, because look at Ranieri up in third place. He's 6/10 off the lead here. Look how they're going over to this right-hand side to get a little bit more rain on their tyres.
They are indeed. So this race just having a lot of management from these drivers when it comes to their placements around this circuit. It means that the gap is flowing between all the drivers and everyone is inside 1 second. As I complete that sentence, Alves finds himself dropping out. Now he's back in, so it is close now, and the top 5 are all finding themselves as contenders. Meanwhile, Liam Stevens trying to find a way by the driver in 7th. Will that be the case for much longer though? It will, at least through the Tamburello chicane. He got close, but not close enough to be able to get past the Ferrari. What about into the Villeneuve chicane? Once again, just going to those wet patches and then coming back over to the racing line to take the Villeneuve chicane, and then it's going to be about trying to see whether a move could be coming his way if he feels like he's got a lot more pace, which at the moment it does suggest like that he does have the pace to overtake, as there Larry Tulki finally gets his way by on Conrad Bohm, who is fading with the tyres that he's got at the moment. And there's going to be Cameron Dowds also sending it up the inside, nearly 3 wide into Piratella, will not work, and then it's going to be Conrad Bohm leaving ahead, but Dowds will have the better grip. Can he go all the way around the outside is the question.
No, he backs out of that move wisely there, does Cameron Downs, but he's not going to give up the ghost here. Obviously, Conrad with that 3-second time penalty, going to go down the inside into the chicane. Oh, that was a little bit aggressive from Cameron Downs. It's caused Conrad to get another 3-second time penalty, but I'm sure the stewards will have a good long look at that one. It was a very, very late dive down the inside there, as Conrad Bohm in 11th place at the moment, but yeah, definitely struggling now here this afternoon as we watch Liam Stevens getting close to Riccardo Benzoni here, racing down the main straight, looking to go around the outside of the first corner. That is definitely a brave one to pull here. Going to keep chatting because I believe we might have lost Omi very briefly here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, but down the inside goes Liam Stevens. They're going to go wheel to wheel into the Villeneuve chicane. They can't make it stick at the moment. Can they dive it up the inside, or can Jan Halliday, of course, our defending F2 champion, is going to make a double move here, possibly for the Ferrari driver, who goes over to cover Liam Stevens and covers him fantastically well. Beautiful stuff there from Liam Stevens to try and battle forwards. He's going to go around the outside of Aquaminerani. We don't see this very often, or at all. He makes it stick, or does he? Because Benzoni's just on his inside there. They're still wheel to wheel. He gets pushed into the gravel, and he's going to have something to say about that, does Stevens. Benzoni and Stevens reigniting a very, very treasured rivalry here at PSGL. Beautiful racing from the two drivers, just on that limit of where racing becomes very dangerous, but beautiful stuff indeed from Stevens and Benzoni. And yes, we have lost Omi, but it's okay, because I am still here, ladies and gentlemen, to commentate this fantastic Grand Prix, which is starting to boil up in a lot of excitement here, as Quintoon closing in on Conrad Bohm there for 12th position. But of course, 24 seconds down, it's not what Conrad would want. He's definitely going to have some stewards' inquiries for that move into the chicane. Once again, we're going to see a race lead battle. Angelo D'Asensio and Leo Landi on the gravel, but Angelo bravely backs off the corner, not wanting to incite the wrath of the stewards. Will he go for the switchback of dreams? But that's caused all these drivers to back up and close in, with our race leaders so close to each other now. That was almost beautiful from D'Asensio as he tried to go around the outside of Leo Lund. Beautiful stuff, but not pulled off just yet. He backed off, he waited his moment and almost made it stick. But now is involved the Mercedes of Ranelli and Rapassa and Alves, all for the battle for the Grand Prix lead. We've got 5 cars for P1 and maybe 5 cars for the podium finish as well. Do not go anywhere, folks. Race is just getting started here. Of course, we had a little bit of a slow start to the Grand Prix, but nothing doing at the moment. They're all still getting closer and concertining up here before we get a real set of fireworks started. But yeah, we saw the moment by Angelo and by Leo Lund. It's beautiful stuff from our race battlers. As here comes Liam Stevens now closing in on Riccardo Benzoni, a driver who's just gone backwards in this Grand Prix, and we're not sure exactly what is the cause of that. Tyre problems, very possibly, is the name of the game here in F125 and at PSGL Season 40 on round number 4. It is beautiful stuff from our race leader. And Omi, it is you're back. Welcome back. You missed a little bit of excitement, but yeah, it's still going off here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Missed a little bit, but now happy to be back as the rain continues to fall around this place. On board we go with Lari Chulki as he arrives down to Piratella, getting very interesting this race, and it's London Angelo Diortensio, both looking to go at it in these final stages, and we are watching directly in behind this battle that currently goes on as this race now looks to try and just hypen up a bit come our final stages, which after the last lap that we saw at Spa, it definitely has possibilities of anything can happen in the final stages. I think we've learned across this season, so who knows, it could be an absolutely spectacular finish.
It could be a spectacular finish indeed, with Angelo closing in once again. The gap has restored between second and third place. A little bit of a mistake coming from Ranelli in third place, but here comes Asensio looking to go down the inside. Can't make the move stick at the moment, running across that curve, running across the second one, but still not closing in enough. Only 3/10 is the gap. Angelo had that one opportunity, and maybe that could be one last opportunity, but I don't think so. For the man in second place, for the man down a world title, it is never over for overtaking opportunities. But yeah, Angelo closing that gap to Leo Lund as the rain continues to fall here at Imola. And even if the rain was to stop now, I don't think drivers would consider a drier tyre because the track is going to still be very damp. Even if it stopped now, we'd only get a switch maybe on the last few laps, and that's where the advantage would come. But right now, let's focus on the now and not on the future, with Angelo still 3/10 behind. But Ranelli struggling now, starting to struggle. Maybe he pushed his tyres a little bit too much here.
Yeah, we saw the gap come down in dramatic fashion, so that could definitely be the case, that now he's having to look in his mirrors and having to focus on Rapasa and Alves, who are both there, and Halliday will also try and get himself in the mix as well. So keep an eye on these three drivers who could definitely switch positions if Ranieri's tyres do continue to fade away. He'll try and catch some momentum. He'll try and get into a bit of a rhythm. Talking about getting into a rhythm, this is for the race lead. Angelo Diortensio getting closer and closer, going for the outside line. Can he make the move to take the lead? Leo Lund, braver on the brakes, goes in deep. Leo Lund tries to get a cut back, and they could be side by side when they're next arriving up. They're both off, and they're into the wall very nearly. Angelo Diortensio and Leo Lund debating the lead, take each other right over to the wall.
And that was almost tragic from our race leaders, but it's closed the gap once again. Ranelli was licking his lips at the chance of taking the Grand Prix lead, but absolute catastrophe for Leo Lund and Asensio. And maybe the stewards' room will come into handy once again for a Grand Prix lead. But you can tell these two are both pushing for the race lead, but maybe pushing a little bit too much on the limit. Leo Lund does not want to finish second again. Asensio wants to win the Grand Prix from his pole position, but he's very much on the limit of racing here, Omi.
Yeah, that was taking each other right to the wall and nearly finding themselves out of the race. Few more centimetres in for Diortensio. That could have been very vital. I mentioned they could be coming side by side in our shot next, and Leo Lund was trying his best to defend. Angelo Diortensio was trying his best to attack, and it could be part two coming in a few moments time as well when they round this final corner, and then he's going to stand on the power, all about the battery once again. You'll find himself a little bit more behind this time though, so it's going to be a fascinating fight between these two, and we mentioned it could be going down to the stewards' room. We'll of course keep you posted on socials about that one. Diortensio closing in once again.
And he's going to go for it down the inside. He doesn't go for it this occasion, doesn't want that dive, doesn't want to end himself in the gravel trap, but they've restored the lead at the front. They do not want to turn this in to a multi-car battle. Jan Halliday, on the other hand, wants to make another overtake as he looks down the inside of Nelson Alves there. Jan Halliday has driven a fantastic Grand Prix here. As we mentioned, defending F2 world champion, wants to hold on to his title, and at the moment he's doing a fantastic job of gaining good positions here and getting himself some good points this afternoon. Liam Stevens, our main championship leader, on the other hand, down in 8th place and stuck behind a struggling Ferrari in Riccardo Benzoni.
Yeah, in Zoni, it has been a race of falling downwards, unfortunately, ever since that pit stop phase. And he's got himself and Liam Stevens together, and we're looking at a sight of Leo Lund on his way to take the championship lead as it stands. Not if they get as close to the wall as they did last lap, as well as they were debating the lead. So they've got to try keep this one clean. And Leo Lund, as we mentioned, he's been very consistent this season, has to definitely try keep that up, even if it has to be, unfortunately, settling for second place today. Sometimes you just have to take those results, but he's proving that he can absolutely fight at the front for these race victories. And you can see the Scarlet Ferrari getting closer towards our rear wing, and he will be darting for the move once again, but he's going to sit in behind. Meanwhile, Jan Halliday and Nelson Alves have switched positions, and it's Halliday moving up to P5, so it's going well for him as Di Hortensio really begins to close in through now, heading through the Villeneuve chicane and about to go down to Tota.
You're not going to put pressure on Leo Lund. The man seems to be immune from having pressure put on him, but Angelo is trying everything he can to keep himself in the hunt for this Grand Prix race. He led for the first section of this race and lost it during the pit stop phase. And at the moment, as Conrad Bohm gets up another 3-second warning, the only driver to have penalties, he's done it 3 times, but that second one was very much not his fault, getting pushed across the main chicane. But Angelo still closing in again. You can see positions gain. Jan's gained 9 positions this Grand Prix. Leo gaining 2, and Angelo and Ranelli losing 1. But Ranelli still on the podium positions here and still looking good for at least a 3rd place finish. And that would be a fantastic result for the Veloce Academy and Mercedes driver here, especially in his home Grand Prix, as the tyres are going to be starting to wear even more now here at Imola.
They will indeed. They'll be getting to the tough phase of the race. They'll be getting to the challenge point now come these final stages, as our top 2 once again arrive in our picture. Just another look for Di Hortensio looming large in the mirrors, and he is definitely going to be planning an attack, but it's all about the exit that you can get out of the final corner to see whether you can get some momentum, to see whether you can get a run. And he's following closely through the corners at the moment is Angelo Di Hortensio, and a driver who's found himself, as we mentioned, on pole on 3 occasions in a row, was a winner here in Jeddah as well, and then has found himself with a 7th and a 6th that wants to try and get a 2nd win of the season. And Leo Lund, as we mentioned, chasing it first. So you've got 2 drivers in the mix, 2 drivers desperate to continue their seasons, and really 2 drivers who are your championship contenders along with Liam Stevens.
Obviously, there's always a driver in that little bit of contention. As you mentioned, 32 points is the gap between a lot of our drivers, between the drivers that have scored only 1 point and the drivers that are leading the World Championship. And a man who wants to defend that World Championship is Jan Halliday, who has really got a chance of a podium finish, maybe on the last lap of this Grand Prix. He's driven his socks off this afternoon as the Aston Martin man, and he might get another position here on Luca Rapassa. But returning to the race lead, we go to the penultimate lap here of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. A fully wet Grand Prix has tested our driver's mettle, and here comes D'Ascencio. He's closing in, he's closing in, he's closing in. Is he closing in enough? The gap has to be left, but it's left only a little bit. But he follows nicely through the corner, and this could be the moment that Angelo D'Ascencio takes back the lead of the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. Where is Leo Lund going everywhere, as Jan Halliday also takes 4th place, but it's not enough for D'Ascencio just yet. Liam Stevens is going wheel to wheel with Nelson Alves, who's also decided to have a go on these last 2 laps. But Angelo has not made that move just yet. He's got one more opportunity, one more lap to take the win here in Italy, and he certainly wants to stand in top of the step in front of the Tifosi fans.
That is going to be the aim, that is going to be the goal for Angelo Di Hortensio. These are vital corners in the context of who wins this race. You can see that Angelo Di Hortensio was all out of shape, trying to stand on the power through Minerali. This is Varianti Alta, sends it in, late into the corner, trying to get the exit. Once again, we're going to see the Red Bull just pull away momentarily. There's a moment for Alves, Nelson Alves further back, off into the gravel trap. Out of the exit there, Minerali. Disappointment for Alves as he'll be returning back to the road, but outside the points now for him, and it's a puncture there for him as he navigates his way through. It's actually, he's arriving at Minerali now, and that is disappointment for him as he makes his way through. The gap is 7/10 out in front though, and it looks like Angelo Di Hortensio might not be able to get close enough.
No, at the moment it doesn't look that right, but a puncture, is that a worry for some of our drivers up towards the front of the grid, possibly causing themselves a little bit of an issue, or is that a unrelated problem as he's going to call himself back to the pit lane here? But, oh, Angelo so far into that corner, he caught that snap brilliantly, but the Ferrari driver I think is struggling on his tyres. I think everyone is. Is there a risk of punctures for some of our front runners here? Look how slowly Ranieri is going through the corners as Jan Halliday is only 2 seconds off the podium here, as Nelson Alves obviously going into the pits retires from the very tragic end to what has been a brilliant race for the Williams man. As here we go through the final sector now. Leo Lund has only got a few corners left to defend his race lead, as so does Ranieri defending his last spot on the podium. And I think for Leo Lund's sake, unless, oh, Angelo went for it, and he went for it too much and caught himself a 3-second time penalty. Can he clear himself the gap that he needs from the car behind, or will it be tragic at the end for the Ferrari man as Leo Lund is going to stamp on the brakes and stamp on them more? He doesn't need to worry about it anymore. Leo Lund, the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, and in behind it will be Ranelli who picks up that third place. No, he picks up second, and Jan misses out on the podium by a 1/10 of a second. Angelo just survives a podium finish, but my goodness me, a last lap full of drama, and it was almost tragic for Angelo D'Asensio.
Yeah, absolutely. What a race. And the Swedish driver ending as the winner, and also shooting himself to the championship lead as well. What a day for Leo Lund. He has done absolutely brilliantly. As we look to the reserve driver momentarily, Joe Murphy will be the final driver across the line. Imtiaz will be ahead of Conrad Bohm when the penalty is applied. But Leo Lund has done the job brilliantly, and a driver who's been second on 2 occasions. Well, entering a new PB, it is P1 for him, and he has beaten Angelo D'Asensio to the flag on circuit. And Ranieri, who's put in a very good performance today, can also call himself a podium finisher, and he gets second with that one. A great result for Ranieri, and that will be now 2 podiums in a row for the Italian driver. So well done to the Mercedes man, but no one had the answer to Leo Lund. Once he was able to get into the lead, he maintained it, and he is going to be getting the 16 points that come his way for victory.
Beautiful strategy from the Red Bull team and the Swedish man, as he's surrounded by 2 Italians on that podium. And of course the Tifosi do get to see at least one driver of their team on the podium this afternoon. But of course the controversy that will be taking place, I'm sure, in the stewards' room, that collision between Leo Lund and Angelo D'Asensio, what could that mean for our podium finish at the end of the race? As we see, here is the cleanest driver, goes to Leo Lund. Jan Halliday with the most driver of the day as well. Joe Murphy gets fastest lap, and of course our race winner was Leo Lund in the end. Of course, the man who doesn't get fastest lap point, because it doesn't exist anymore, is Joe Murphy. Unfortunately, that's a shame for him. But this is our final run order. Leo Lund wins it from 3rd on the grid, with Ranelli coming in 2nd place. D'Asensio finishes in 3rd with Jan Halliday in 4th. Rapassa, Benzoni, Stevens, Downs, Tari Tuki and Gabor round out your top 10, with Quintino, Race, Imtaz, Conrad Bohm, Joe Murphy, and your finishers with Nelson Alves, Seisman, Pitor, Sergio, Bent, and Tony Hietala not finishing the Grand Prix. But what a race it was for our race winner, Leo Lund, who of course does get that Grand Prix win. That has eluded him so far this year. We're hopefully going to be getting some interviews in just a moment. I'll see if I can act them in and see if they fancy going in for a quick interview. But yeah, what a race, Omi.
What an absolutely brilliant race. Absolutely fantastic. Of course, had its lull periods in between, but then when you get a finish like that, which we love races that go all the way till the end, it went all the way till the end. I mean, we didn't even know whether the drivers would be able to reach the flag, with the jump scare moment we had with Alves. Once we found himself with him getting a puncture, it was all about the leaders. Could they make it to the end? And they were all over the road. And then that big moment as well between D'Asensio and Lund, where they took each other right over on the exit, where we of course had the lap 1 pile-up. We also had the top 2 nearly take each other out as well of the race. So it's been a dramatic part of the circuit, the exit of the Tamburello chicane and just before the Villeneuve chicane. So yeah, quite the day of PSGL PCF2 racing.
Yep, it certainly was. And we actually have Leo Lund, our race winner, waiting in the box. So I'm going to bring him into the commentary den right now. We are joined by the Grand Prix winner. Tired of picking up second places, decided he wants to win it here this afternoon, and he certainly did it the hard way, of course, winning it in the pit lane, taking the lead, but then had to battle against Angelo Desencio. And of course, the points that we want to talk about here, Leo, of course, congratulations on your win, but the incident with Angelo, what do you think? What do you make of it from your first view? Obviously, you were on board with it. What did you think?
I haven't really looked at it again, but I think it was just tire hooking that made it crazy, yeah. But we did not die, so it's fine.
Well, it seemed okay from where we were watching. It was just a little bit of hard racing from where we were seeing. But yeah, defended until that last moment there, Leo. Was there a worry on tyres? Because it was a very strange condition. It looked wet, but it seemed like tyres were starting to really struggle out there.
Yeah, tire was pretty high, so of course you had to manage the tires pretty much. In the second stint I drove probably 1.5 seconds off the pace just to save tires. Yeah, 1 to 1.5 I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, it looked tricky out there for sure. But obviously, you're taking the championship lead with that Grand Prix victory. And yeah, you're leading the World Championship. Of course, you've got a lot of good contenders behind you. We go to Silverstone next week. What's your thoughts on that circuit? And can we see a similar result here, Leo, going into the next round?
I don't like Silverstone quite much, but I'm looking forward.
So look forward to it. Oh, have you got any questions for our race winner before we let him go?
Well, I'd love to know if you're not really that excited about Silverstone. What other race are you looking forward to? We've got Hungary, we've got Bahrain, we've got Kota, Japan, and then we also find ourselves with Vegas, Brazil, and Mexico to end out the year.
I would say yeah, Brazil and Mexico probably.
Oh,
And
so a strong
Bahrain,
end to the
maybe.
season then.
Yeah. Not a fan of the other tracks.
Well, Leo, you're faster any track you race at, mate, and you have confirmed it here this afternoon with a Grand Prix victory here at Imola. So congratulations, mate, and hope to speak to you next week as well.
Yeah, bye bye.
Awesome, thank you, Leo. And Omi, unfortunately, it doesn't seem like we're getting anyone else in the comments here. But congratulations to Ranelli and, of course, Angelo Desencio as well. From your perspective, Omi, we'll quickly talk about it before we end the stream. If you're going to say right now, you actually didn't see the incident, did you? You weren't here for the incident between Desencio and... Oh, no, well, you were for Leo and Desencio. I can't remember.
Yeah,
But what's your initial thought on that? Do you think it's going to go to the stewards' room, and are we going to see a change in our race results?
Well, personally, after seeing the race decided by stewarding last time, I would prefer if it was just settled on the circuit here today. And I feel like with the way it went, it was hard racing. They both were making their way through. They were both pushing out there on the circuit. I feel like it will be all okay. But at the end of the day, we of course saw it from a bit of a wide shot as they came into our corner. Mostly we just saw both of them running out wide, which there was a lot more involved with that, possibly some tire hooking and some other aspects. So we'll have to get some other angles as well. So we'll let the stewards do their thing and see what result comes of the incident that they had.
It certainly will. But that, ladies and gentlemen, will be that for this afternoon here at PSGL. Of course, you can follow us on all our socials above my head right now. You can see YouTube, Instagram, Discord, Twitter, TikTok, and of course Twitch, and of course you're watching right now on the PSGL YouTube channel. But Omi, where can the lovely people find you if they want to go find out more about you from today's stream?
Obi comms on social, basically absolutely everywhere. Kept it nice and simple for everybody, so you're not having to remember too many things.
Exactly, and you can find me at Definitely10 on pretty much any platform from X to Twitch. And that is where you can find me. But of course, we'd also want to thank Sappy for doing the broadcast today. It's very nice having him produce the broadcast, letting myself and Omi just do the commentary, which is lovely stuff indeed. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Alex, they've been Omi, and we'll see you for our next round next week on Thursday. Goodbye. Spa.